All right, mahalo to everyone from Catholic Charities for putting this together and providing these types of things to community members out there like yourselves. And thank you everyone for joining us and making time for this. Yeah, I'm grateful to have a chance to be here and share some of the things that I've learned about in my journey in this type of work so far, which is also a personal journey because you know, a lot of, all of this stuff relates to not just caregiving roles, but ourselves as human beings with all the ways that it's not easy to be a human being because of all the things that we love in our lives and we struggle with, and the things that are, you know, impermanent and that we lose. So we're gonna, touch on just kind of how mindfulness applies to caregiving and also the challenges of being human. And so grateful to have a chance to be here. Um, Oops, let's see, how do I make this go? There we go. Mahalo for the sponsorship, Catholic Charities of Hawaii and Haleku'ike, and also the Elderly Affairs Division of City and County and of Honolulu. So objectives for today, going to introduce formal and informal mindfulness practices. What do those terms mean? Formal versus informal. And we're going to introduce and practice things that you can actually do at home to practice mindfulness. From those practices, we're going to talk about how to bring this skill of mindfulness relating to moment awareness mindfully into your daily life, into real life. And then how can mindfulness be brought to help a person with the emotional challenges of caregiving? So going from this kind of like structured, formal thing, practicing kind of mindfulness meditation, and then with the goal of having that become useful in our most difficult moments. So a few disclaimers. I take no credit for any of this. I did not create any of this. I am the privileged and lucky recipient of many things, and I want to share some of these things that I've learned from many wonderful, generous teachers, colleagues, coworkers, friends, supervisors, family members, clients, patients, and strangers along the way. And really to recognize that everything I do and is built on the care and compassion and hard work of other people. Um, some of which I know, some of which I don't even realize. And so I just wanted to say that. Um, Many intellectual lineages contribute to this material, most directly from scientists and professors from Western psychological traditions that have incorporated practices and concepts from Buddhist psychology and practice, mainly from India, China, and Japan. And that's important to kind of contextualize this material because the ideas and words presented here about mindfulness are culture bound, as all ideas and words are. And importantly, this type of mindfulness, as we've inherited it, and as I'm sharing it, focuses really heavily on the individual as a discrete entity. Um, and it uses specific ways of thinking about and talking about the self, our emotions, our thoughts, and other phenomena in ways that are our inheritance of cultural kind of worldviews. And they can be very useful, and yet I'm in no way saying these are universal. Um, and it's really cool that there is work going on to investigate and talk about other ways of thinking about mindfulness that are more consistent with different types of perspectives. For example, indigenous perspectives on the self and mental health, which may often be more contextual not just the individual struggling with their problems and trying to fix their problems within themselves, but to appreciate the interdependent and interconnected nature of reality and have mindfulness be more consistent with that view. So I put a few websites on here and for articles that are talking about that. So to access these, hopefully you can access the PDF of the presentation, and hopefully through that PDF on your device, you'll be able to click on those links. If not, you can email me for the links in a more useful way, and I'll put my email at the end of the talk. So let's talk about words. Words are tools. Words are not the things themselves, but they're tools, and we're going to try to use tools in the most useful way. Tools can be used very usefully and helpfully. Tools can also be misused, right? And miscommunication is often the result of words are not clear. So what are we talking about? Mindfulness and meditation, lots of different confusion about this. The way I'm going to use these terms and the ways that I've found it most useful to think about these things is that meditation is a term that is a broad umbrella, just very, very similar to the term exercise. And so if you were thinking about, well, what's the best kind of exercise? Well, there is no such one thing as the best kind of exercise, because the exercise that is best for a given person with particular goals in a particular time in their life is going to vary greatly and is going to depend. Each type of exercise, whether it's, you know, Zumba class or chair yoga or running a marathon or, doing sit-ups, each type of physical exercise is going to be appropriate for different goals and different situations. So I work with, older adults a lot, so we have to often adapt their exercise goals for the realities of their situation. You have sciatica. Okay, that's really, really going to make certain exercises inappropriate. Or you are recovering from a surgery, or you have vertigo. What are we going to do that's going to be exercise that's appropriate, right? Very similarly, meditation is like mental exercise. So meditation is this broad umbrella term. There are many different types of meditations. It's just doing different things with your mind, practicing them just like we practice exercises with different parts of our bodies for different purposes. So when someone's talking about meditation, I would always try to ask them to explain what the purpose or goals of this meditation are, or this type of practice. Um, Mindfulness meditations, as I'm going to talk about them today, are also, I like to talk about them as formal mindfulness practices. So it's practicing this thing called mindfulness in a very formal way. So it's like being in the gym, lifting weights. That's a formal physical exercise practice. When you're out in the world trying to lift a box, that's putting that strength and that strength and skill into real use. So in the same way, mindfulness meditation is like doing the exercise in the gym with the goal that in real life, that skill or that ability is useful in those challenging situations. So I'm gonna try, I tend to talk a lot because there's so much to say. Nothing is ever simple to me, and that's sometimes gets in the way of being clear to people, and I'm sorry. But what I'm really gonna try to do today is mix up talking with actual practice, because that's really the best way to um, learn these things, to sit with what comes up and what is challenging, and then be able to talk through it. So we're going to start by practicing mindful breathing, which is one of the most common types of mindfulness meditation or formal mindfulness practice. And so what we do when we do this as a meditation, Wherever you are right now, and of course everyone is in maybe a very, a different situation. Like if you're driving, do not follow my instructions exactly because I don't want you to close your eyes and I want you to continue to be alert and safe. But if you're in a safe place and you can do so, try to find a stable, upright posture if that's possible. Maybe you're sitting in a chair, um, and and if so, try to sit in a way that is upright and alert, but not strained. And there's nothing magic about posture. There's no magical like lotus position. A lot of folks who are into meditation get really fixated on postures, and okay, maybe that's a particular goal someone has. But as far as practicing mindfulness, a person with no legs can practice mindfulness. So really, there's nothing magical about any particular posture. And so the main goal, though, is to create a posture that allows you to stay still as best you can during the practice, because that is very useful. And so as we start this practice, we're also going to bring our breath a little deeper in our bodies, and that's using our diaphragm. Now, diaphragmatic breathing, we talked about it in part one of this mindfulness kind of mini series here. And diaphragmatic breathing is itself a practice that doesn't have to be mindfulness, which helps with relaxation. But here, combining them is great. Bringing the breath slower and deeper down in the body using your diaphragm. So we're going to start now. We're going to do it for a couple minutes. And just as a little taste of mindful breathing, and if you've done it, especially if you've done this before, notice anything that you're saying to yourself as we practice of I know how to do this, or I've done this before. Because you haven't done this before, this particular moment before. This is a new moment. So let's practice with it. So finding that upright, stable posture, resting your hands and feet, resting in this position, trying not to move as best you can. If you have to, you have to, of course. But for the few minutes of this practice, seeing if you can keep your body still and notice what happens. So as we start this practice, take a few breaths, deeper than normal breaths down into your belly. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes or you can lower them down to a point in front of you. Try not to move them around too much. And give yourself permission right now not to have to figure anything out, not to have to fix anything, not to have to understand anything or do anything. And try to follow the instructions of my voice. Wherever your mind is right now, see if you can bring the focus of your attention, your awareness, to any aspect of the movement of your breath as it comes in and out of your body. Maybe as you look with your awareness towards the motion of your breath, maybe you can feel the sensations of air moving in and out of your nostrils. Maybe you notice there's a temperature, a feeling of different temperatures of the air, cooler or warmer. Maybe at certain parts of your nose or of your breathing passage, maybe in your throat. Maybe you notice sensations of your chest or belly, expanding and touching your clothing. And wherever your mind is, whatever your mind is giving you or saying, acknowledge and just let it be. And turn back to the movement of the breath again. The mind will, of course, wander, might think about the breathing, it might think about the practice, might give you questions or judgments. This is good, this is no good, I like this, I don't like this. This is uncomfortable, or this is comfortable. Whatever your mind is giving you right now, acknowledge it, let it be, and find your breath again. Where is it? The breath and your sensations in your body connected to the moving breath are always living only in the present. So whenever that moment of awareness returns and we notice our mind thinking, making words and ideas, no need to get upset. No need to fight the words or figure out the questions for now. Just come back and find the breath again. Receive the sensations as if you are an observer. And whenever you notice your mind has wandered, wherever the mind is, gently come back to your breath again. And now, wherever the mind is, take a few deeper than normal breaths again, bringing that air down deeper into the belly. And when you feel ready, open your eyes. And when I teach mindfulness, or when we're doing mindfulness together with a client or a group, I often ask next, what did you notice or observe or experience? I don't ask, how was that? Because often people will be likely to categorize their experience as that was really good, that was really bad, I was really bad at it, I couldn't do it. And fine, those are all thoughts and feelings that are coming up right now, and that's fine. But all of that is exactly part of the practice too. So maybe, I'm curious, if folks noticed anything, sensations in their body, the moment, different aspects of the breath that happen moment by moment. What, if people notice those things, people might have noticed other things in their body, like pains or aches or itches or really discomfort wanting to move. Um, I noticed sensations from my bladder personally because I had a lot of coffee this morning. And so I'm like, ah, there's my bladder. Okay, come back to what I'm doing and continue. Um, if it was an emergency, of course, I would listen to that and take care of it. But in that practice just now, I observed those physical sensations, those messages from my body. So, a common concern when we start practicing, I couldn't clear my mind. I was doing it wrong. I can't do this. And 90% of people that I do this with when they're just starting out, they have these types of thoughts. And of course, we have those thoughts because that is the message that we get from popular media, from our kind of portrayals of mindfulness as this thing that we're supposed to be blissed out by. Like we're supposed to get to a place where we're not thinking or we're somehow in control of our thoughts. And those are misconceptions. Those are common misconceptions. So, of course, you know, a lot of folks say, my mind wanders too much. Meditation is something that people like me can't do. And okay, that's a very understandable thought to have. And yet, um, that is really not true because we can make meditation fit for where you are right now. And having thoughts is exactly part of why we practice this. Let's continue. So, what is mindfulness? It's a natural ability that we all have to pay attention or be aware of things. Physical feelings, for example, in the body, emotions. So physical feelings are like the wind on my face or my clothes on the back of my shoulders. Emotions, so that pit in your stomach when you feel scared or sad. Anger kind of in your face. Those are sensations we can have in a moment. Thoughts, I'm no good at this. What's the point of this? Those are thoughts happening in the moment. Sights, I can see out my window, a man in an orange shirt. Sounds, I heard the air conditioner just go on. And smells, not too many smells right now, thankfully. And tastes, of course, we can experience tastes. And these things that we're paying attention to are happening right now when we're practicing mindfulness. They're things happening right now. They're not our thoughts about things that happened before or our imagination of things that may happen in the future. And we're practicing it in a way that is non-judgmental. And what I mean by that is open, allowing, curious even, and accepting, letting it be, letting everything be that's coming to me right now in this moment. That is the practice of mindfulness. In other words, without trying to fix it, letting it be versus letting it go. Letting it go, we often tell ourselves, let it go, or we often tell other people, let it go. That means get rid of it. And sometimes the harder we try to get rid of something that we can control, like emotions, the more entangled and the more the struggle intensifies. So letting it be is this mindful way of approaching things like this. Let it be. That means it may not go away right now, but I'm going to sit with it. It's a skill, so it's an ability, and it's a skill that we get better at. It's just like learning a language or an instrument. Um, and just like a language or an instrument, we're never going to be perfect at it. I mean, some people may have an aptitude that's fantastic. I hope that makes them happy. But mindfulness is never something we're going to get perfect at. That's okay. Now, different practices help us develop the skill, and that's why we talked about formal mindfulness practice as one of those things. It's really, really good for us, most by and large. Tons and tons of research over the last 30 years. It's something that I studied in graduate school, mindfulness and acceptance-based behavioral therapy for generalized anxiety disorder, which is one of the most challenging presentations of anxiety patterns to actually treat because it's generalized. The worry is pervasive and it can be about anything, whereas specific anxieties, not as difficult. But of course, every type of anxiety can be very, very difficult for folks. But Okay, so mindfulness-based stress reduction was one of the first sort of formal packages where mindfulness meditation and mindfulness skills were put into sort of a Western treatment context or Western treatment program. And John Kabat-Zinn, who's a researcher from Worcester, Massachusetts, had quite a bit of meditation experience himself, I believe, in India. And he was back in Worcester working in a chronic pain clinic with folks who had AIDS, who had cancer, and were undergoing chemotherapy, and was working with patients for whom there were no cures for their pain and their physical suffering because of their illnesses and their treatments. And so he's like, wait a minute, this stuff I learned over here might really apply to being with our pain that we can't fix in a different way. And created this program. And that was the sort of the beginning of this mindfulness explosion, where mindfulness programs were created that focus on different types of issues or problem areas: addiction, anxiety, depression, relationship, parenting, you name it. Nowadays, there's a mindfulness program for almost everything, which is really great. The downside is it's popular in media, and that popular media portrayal often leads to misconceptions. But by and large, I think it's really helpful for most people. So this mindfulness is the opposite of autopilot when we often are checked out. Um, and checking out and autopilot by themselves are not bad. Checking out is okay, and it's something we do sometimes. But when we check out in certain ways, and when we check out more often than not, and it can lead to other types of issues, sort of reacting without consciousness in ways that we later wish we didn't. It can also lead to being disconnected from things in our life that are valuable. Okay, we're going to do another practice. And I have to break it up because I can end up going on tangents forever. So we're going to practice again a formal mindfulness meditation called mindfulness of body sensations, also commonly called the body scan, based in that original mindfulness-based stress reduction program. So again, finding a comfortable yet stable and upright position. And if you feel comfortable, closing your eyes or putting them down on a place in front of you. Creating this container, physical container of stillness, which allows us to more clearly observe what's coming up in our bodies and our minds. Taking a few deeper than normal breaths down into the belly. Start by bringing your awareness down to your feet. If you have feet, and if you can feel your feet, bring your attention down and try to notice sensations in one of your big toes. Your big toes are down there all the time doing their job. They don't ask for much. They don't ask for a lot of recognition, but they're always doing their thing down there, and they are always sensing their environment. So seeing if we can bring our awareness to what they are sensing moment by moment. Maybe, depending on the situation of your foot, your big toe, you can sense the contact points of the skin, the toenail, to any type of footwear that you're wearing. I'm wearing slippers, rubber slippers, so I can feel the bottom of one of my toes touching the slipper. And I can feel kind of slight tingling in the toes. And whatever you feel or don't feel, letting that be just as it is. Moving your awareness to the other toes of your feet. Seeing if you can notice sensations and not having to think about them, not having to figure out, is this a good or bad sensation? How would I describe it? But just going there with your attention without an agenda other than sensations in my toes, because they're always happening right now, never in the past and never in the future. Wherever your mind is, moving your attention to the soles of your feet. Maybe you can feel the balls of the feet or the soles of the heels of your feet touching the floor, touching footwear. Letting those come to you. And again, giving yourself permission right now not to have to fix anything else or figure anything else out. Not have to figure anything out. Letting yourself be an observer, a receptor, like a satellite dish, receiving sensations from your own body without judgment. Moving your awareness now, wherever the mind is, trying to notice any sensations in your lower legs. I'm wearing long pants so I can feel the contact between my calves and the pants fabric, just some slight contact there. I can feel the coolness of my extremely air-conditioned office room in this building on the skin of my lower legs. And I just, I noticed that I just had an association, and the cold on my legs made me think about the building air conditioning and how cold it is all the time. Okay, no problem. So I noticed that. And then I come back to my legs. Moving your awareness. This is why it's a body scan. We're going through, and next we're gonna notice any sensations of your okole sitting, wherever it's sitting. Maybe it's on a chair, a cushion, feeling the sensation of contact between your thighs and your butt with the chair. Notice that sensation of being supported, if that sensation is there. Moving up now, wherever the mind is, bringing your attention like that gentle flashlight to sensations in your back, maybe your lower back. Maybe your back is touching your clothing or touching a chair or cushion. Maybe there's discomfort in your lower back, tension, that's okay. Receiving that sensation just as it is. Not fixing anything at this moment. Moving the attention up from the back, the upper back, shoulders. Noticing any tension you're holding in the shoulders, common place of unconscious tension. Giving permission to any muscles that you notice as you do this, any muscles that are doing work or tensing that aren't unnecessary, don't need to be doing work, giving those muscles up permission to take a break. Let them go, let them down, let them be. Moving your awareness now down your shoulders and arms, your forearms and wrists to your hands and fingers, anything coming from these areas. And maybe your fingers, you notice points of contact of your hands and fingers with each other, with your legs, with anything that they happen to be resting on or touching. When I am bringing my awareness right now to my fingers, I notice the coolness of the air on the back of my hand. I notice some tingling sensations arising and passing away in my parts of my fingers. I notice where my thumbs are touching each other. Now, wherever the mind is, moving your attention up to the top of your head, to your scalp, and bringing that awareness through the scalp. As I do this, I'm noticing sensations of itchiness in my scalp and an urge to scratch that itch, and then letting that urge be, watching it arise and pass away. Bringing that awareness to your forehead, the muscles in the forehead, above the eyes and the eyebrows and between them, around the sides of your head, the temples and ears. Awareness of the eyes and cheeks. Giving permission to any muscles in your face that are doing work right now that aren't necessary. Giving those muscles permission to hang down, rest a little more. Moving the awareness to the mouth, jaw and chin and neck. Wherever the mind is right now. Bringing it back into your body right here and now. Connecting again with your breath as you take a couple more deep breaths. And when you feel comfortable, if your eyes are closed, you can open them. And, the next question as we reconnect in communication would be, what did you notice? I was kind of describing a few things that I was noticing along the way. And they included different transient physical sensations in different parts, feelings of discomfort a little bit, kind of cold, associations that started to connect in my mind as I noticed the sensation on my skin. I thought about coldness. The coldness produced a chain of thoughts about the air condition in my room, office room, that bubbled into a thought about the constant over air conditioning of this entire building, and that went into concern about energy usage and global warming. And so it's right there. So one example of how easily the mind can go from this little thing, which is focusing on one spot of skin on my body, and it can balloon up into thoughts about Armageddon. So amazing, right? Our minds are amazing. And that kind of thing, that kind of mental proliferation happens automatically in our minds all day long for most of us. And there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself, because our minds are made to think, problem solve, you know, plan for potential challenges and head them off if we can. The problem is that that fixed mode has become so overlearned and deeply ingrained in our minds that our mind almost doesn't know how to not do that. And it turns out it's actually really useful to know how to not do that sometimes, because sometimes fixing is not the most useful things for things that can't be fixed. Um, we spent a bunch of time on that last time. Um, and we'll get to more of that in the next few slides. So a common concern is I don't feel relaxed afterward. It didn't work. And again, a very common misconception that the goal of mindfulness is to relax. Relaxation is great, and there are relaxation exercises whose explicit goal is relaxation, um, diaphragmatic breathing being one of them. Mindfulness, though, does not have relaxation as its explicit goal. Now, because what we do with our minds during these practices, sometimes people do feel relaxed afterwards, more relaxed, and that is fine. That is great. It's like I want to appreciate feeling relaxed if I'm relaxed after this practice, but that is not the goal because it can quickly become an effort to avoid our feelings and seek relaxation or seek to avoid certain feelings using mindfulness in ways that are actually not that helpful. Um, so again, clarifying that however you feel at the end of this or during this, that is fine. That is part of the practice. That is okay. You know. Um, Okay, so this mindfulness, let's break it down, is number one, awareness of sensations, direct observation, which is always the sensations and things that we're bringing mindfulness to are always happening in this moment. Our thoughts sometimes take us into the future or the past, but everything else is really only happening now. So it's not thinking about physical sensations because thinking is not happening in the moment, it's happening a millisecond after. If I think foot, cold, that that linguistic thought, cold, foot cold, is happening a split moment right after and is not the sensation itself. It's a thought about the self. It's a word. Um, and this is not easy. Present moment awareness or observation is not easy for folks at first. And it's almost like, what are you talking about? For a lot of folks don't even really understand what I mean. Our habits of evaluation are so deeply ingrained. So it is practicing receiving and observing the bare experience rather than our interpretations or reactions to them. The term coming to our senses takes on this literal meaning in mindfulness practice. Come back to your senses, because if we feel lost in our thoughts and worry about the future and regret or remorse or worrying about the past, how do we come back? Well, our body is always here. Even, the pleasant, the unpleasant, the pain, the pleasure, the neutral, all of that stuff is right here. The second part of this practice is without judgment. That is allowing, opening to, and letting be. Also, very foreign for most of us. Judgments include good, bad, positive, negative, right, wrong, I like, I don't like. All those are they're really important functions of our brain, evaluation and analysis and problem solving. But when that is the only thing our minds do, we use it in times when that actually adds to our problems in some ways. It's an automatic habit. Judgment is not the sensation itself. Pain, pain is a really important mindfulness focus to practice on. because there is pain that arises in our bodies, and then there's the suffering that we layer on top of it in addition. And mindfulness is trying to look at what is the pain underneath all that. So, for example, sound arrives at our eardrum, the brain experiences the sound, then the brain engages in analysis, categorization, and evaluation. But the pure sensation arriving at our ears and that initial experience within the sensory part of our brain, that is in the present moment. That is the practice that we're coming to. Um, and a lot of folks, when they're learning about this non-judgment thing, then they go and practice and they say, oh my gosh, I was judging the whole time and I was so bad because I was judging. And so judgments will happen. So another part of this practice is noticing when you judge the judgment and then letting the judging of the judgment be. And then we judge the judgment of the judgment in our practice. And then we say, all right. And then we let the judgment of the judgment of the judgment be. And so you can see how this practice is stepping back from whatever has come up in us and making space for that too. Oh, okay, right. Judgment of the judgment of the judgment of the judgment. Ah, right. This is here. Here it is. Where's my breath? Oh, right. Judgment of the judgment of the judgment of the judgment of the judgment, and all the way down, right? Um, Bringing acceptance even to the habit of fixed mode. That is included. Nothing that is not included in this mindful awareness and acceptance. We can do mindfulness of movement too, which is a really good one. So we're just going to do a quick one. And so what I want us to do is I want you to find your position again, your upright position, and we are going to do some very simple movements. Don't do anything that's painful or not good for your body. But let's stretch our neck a little bit. So wherever your mind is, take a few deeper than normal breaths again, bringing this intention of bringing mindful observation to the sensations of our body as we move. So now, if this is safe for you to do, stretching, taking your left ear and moving it down towards your left shoulder, stretching that right side of the neck, and not too much, right? Gentle, and noticing all the complexity of sensations that arise in different parts of your neck as you stretch. Good or no need to judge or analyze. If judgment or analysis arises, that's okay. And noticing how the sensations change as you bring your head back up to center and moving that head in the other direction where your right ear comes down closer to your right shoulder. Noticing sensations in the neck and other related areas, the shoulder, maybe the head, chest or back. And noticing sensations as they change as you move your head back up to the center. Now, turning your head to the left, twisting that head on its axis, reaching around your chin to the left, feeling all the sensations going down in different parts of your neck and body. Breathing into your body. Noticing when the mind wanders to thinking about things. And coming back into your body. Noticing sensations as you bring your neck back to the front. And move it back over to the right, twisting around the axis, bringing your chin around to the right, holding it and feeling sensations, all the different things that might arrive in your sensory awareness. I can feel my neck touching the collar of my shirt. I can feel the tension in the compressed part of my neck on the right side and the stretched part on the left side, different parts. And wherever your mind is, bring your neck and your face back to center, facing forward. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes if you had them closed. So again, the question will be, what did you notice? Did your mind go off in a tangent somewhere about your yoga practice or about, you know, um, anything? And that's okay. Did you notice feelings in your neck or your body? Whatever came up is fine. And even the one moment of mindful awareness at the very end, when I say come back and open your eyes, that's okay. That's a moment of mindfulness of coming back. So formal practices are these times when we set aside time to specifically cultivate this ability. These can include sitting meditation, walking meditation, laying down meditation, and yoga, sort of, or different types of moving mindfulness. We can use different anchors for our focus, or focuses, or foci. So the nuts and bolts, when and where should I do this? If we are going to try to build this as a practice, finding sort of a routine time and place tends to be the most successful at keeping it going. Often folks find it in the morning, and then as quiet a place as you can be without being disturbed. Of course, that's never completely possible, but notifying your family members or people you live with that you might be taking a few minutes, and we'll talk later. How often? I mean, every day is great, but as often as is possible is great. How long do I meditate? A lot of folks think that they won't be able to make progress, quote unquote, if they don't do long stretches. I like to share with folks that I think the amount of time that allows you not to hate it is probably the amount of time you should start with. Because if you try to make yourself sit for half an hour and it is torture, you're not going to want to keep going, and that's going to be the least helpful thing for learning this. So often I start folks on like 2 minutes. Set a timer. 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Posture. The only thing about posture is trying to stay still. So however you can stay still for that period of time without, adding excruciating pain to your body is the best way to go. We're creating this physical container of stillness, which allows us to really get better at observing our inner experience. Because oftentimes we're moving in response to the inner experience, but we don't even realize it. Your brain is going to tell you and your body is going to want to tell you, get up and check your email, get up and return that text. And that's great when that comes up, because that is a really important um, automatic thing to practice with and say, wait, no one's going to die if I don't text them back right now. Just stay. Of course, if there is a crisis and someone is going to die, don't just sit there, do something. But um, next, I think it's really great, especially when we're starting out with any skill, is to have guidance. And so guided apps have been really useful for folks. It's really useful for me, even though I have a decent amount of experience and I can do practice without guidance. A lot of the time when I am tired or when I am have a lot of emotion, guided exercises still are really useful for me, because that voice coming in to bring me back is useful, because I am all over the place in those times, and that's okay. But the guided is helpful. One of the other things that's been really one of the most helpful things for me is being part of groups that sit together in person or online. There's a different feeling, and it's very powerful to sit with other people who are all working on this together and sitting in silence. So, in the last few slides, I have some app recommendations, some online exercises that you can access on the web, and I think I have some groups and on there as well. So myths of mindfulness, and I really have to boogie here because um, time is going quickly. It's not Mindfulness is not to clear the mind or zen out. It's not hypnosis or getting somewhere else. There's myth is that only calm people can meditate. False. And I don't know too many calm people when we look under the surface. But yeah, um, I have to meditate for long periods of time to get benefit. That's not true. Someday I'll be able to meditate perfectly. Someday I'll get there. I'll be that person who is somehow zenned out and like not affected by things emotionally. That's not true. We're emotional creatures. That's okay. Our brains and bodies are wired to think, imagine, have emotions, and feel pain. That is part of being human. And mindfulness helps us improve our relationship to those internal things that feel unacceptable or feel intolerable. So a lot of people think this is mindfulness, or, okay, fine, you can do mindfulness when you're at the beach and you're on vacation, and that's great. But mindfulness that we practice, the goal is to bring mindfulness to these moments, overwhelm, to frustration. Traffic is one of the things that brings out the worst in me personally. And so this is one of the most important places where I try to remember to bring mindfulness practices in traffic and in driving. Sadness, taking care of people who are sad or struggling, and into our caregiving life and into the challenges of having impermanent bodies. These are things that mindfulness is for, in addition to feeling good. So mindfulness we can practice with sounds, just like with our bodies and things coming from within us. We can notice moment to moment things like there's a truck right outside reversing. I can hear its engine sounds arriving. I can hear the beeps coming. But it's very common that when we experience sound in our day-to-day life, we don't just hear the sounds. There's a sound happening, and then our mind chews on that sound and thinks about it for some time afterwards. And sometimes the sound that upset us has been gone for some time, but we are still somehow attaching to that idea or that memory of the sound. So here we're letting sounds come and go because sounds only exist right now. Age-old wisdom, this is from last time too, the serenity prayer. Give me this strength to change the things I can change, the serenity to accept the things I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. If no can, no can. If can, can. That's local wisdom right there. That's the serenity prayer. And mindfulness is helping us with the third part of that, which is all often the problem, which is trying to change things I can't change, which is often my emotions. No one has direct control over those feelings, and making pain go away. So trying to change those things is putting something in the wrong bucket, and that increases our suffering. And then how do we accept? This is the practical application of how acceptance is practiced. Most problems in our life and most moments have both things we can work on and things we cannot. And so mindfulness is there to help us with our clarity about that. So acceptance is not feeling bliss. It's not the absence of pain. It's not forgetting, getting over it. It's not weak. It takes courage to sit with some of these difficult things. It's not giving up. It's not accepting something that is harming us either. Um, what is it? It's allowing emotions to do their work. It's not trying to control things that can't be controlled. It's a huge gift to your loved ones and your care recipient. It's a way we can be more open to the suffering of others instead of trying to fix them because we feel pain when they're suffering. But by trying to fix them, what we're doing is we're actually often trying to avoid our own pain at witnessing them suffer. And that disconnects us from them and from being a true presence with them in their time of need. So acceptance happens on multiple levels. In our heads, I accept that my spouse has dementia. I can accept that I feel sad right now and that sadness is valid and important. This is a cognitive practice. And in our actions, resisting the fix impulse for things that can't be fixed. Acceptance is not a feeling. Mindfulness is not a feeling because sadness is an important part of accepting the reality of a situation. Acceptance is not the absence of sadness. It's not feeling calm, even though those are great. Those are nice. And maybe with mindfulness practice, maybe they show up more often, but they are not the goal of mindfulness and acceptance. Acceptance is letting be the things that are inside. So fixed mode, natural, very useful. Fixed mode has made what we have today, all the good things of our advanced societies, and so important for caregivers in every way, all day long. So fixed mode is not bad, but just like a hammer is not bad, it's useful when you have a nail, but if you are trying to brush someone's teeth, a hammer is not as useful, right? So just like that, fixed mode is really useful for things that can be fixed. Mindfulness helps us use fixed mode with more awareness and flexibility, and to have the choice to not use fixed mode when fixed mode is actually detrimental. So, how does mindfulness work in helping us with our emotions? It helps us change our relationship with our negative thoughts and feelings. It's not fixing those things. Studies show that suppression of unwanted thoughts and emotions actually, especially if they're strong, makes them stronger in the long run. Oftentimes, and we won't do this now, I practice mindfulness of difficult emotions. Once we have some practice in our experience, we'll actually have someone bring in a difficult situation into their mind that happened recently and imagine themselves in there. And instead of trying to fix the problem, bring those emotions into the body and notice how they feel, just like we noticed how our foot felt on the floor or the air in our bodies. We feel how is that emotion arising in your body, in the chest? Does it feel like a knot? Does it feel like a knife? Does it feel like a hot poker or an ice cold, you know, iceberg on your back, right? Fixed mode also robs us of the opportunities to connect. Always trying to fix your care partner, make them not feel sad, tell them not to be sad. It can make it hard to be present with them in the moment as they are and connect with them. It can make it hard for them to feel safe sharing how they really feel with you if they're always feeling like you're trying to fix them. Our care recipients sometimes feel more shame, embarrassment, and frustration when people try to fix them or invalidate their feelings unintentionally. Sometimes we might look back on this moment with our care partner, even though they're in particular types of challenging situations and maybe disability, and miss what was good about this time later because it was hard for us to be present and hold the things that are painful as well as make room for the things that are still beautiful or still connected. The stop exercise is a really good brief one. We can do it in a moment. STOP is an acronym for stop what you're doing. T, take a deep, mindful breath. Observe, open to the moment without fixing thoughts, emotions, body sensations. Observing this moment, something in this moment. And then P is proceed with what you're doing with a little bit more awareness. That's stop. It can be momentary. So lastly, I wanted to talk about this. I know I have to stop talking shortly and so we can answer some questions, but informal practice is just as important as formal practice, and this is practicing in real life. Doing daily activities. And this is a bridge between that formal kind of gym type exercise of meditation and bringing it into real life. So, what are examples? Doing chores, washing dishes, sweeping, yard work, exercising, eating, driving. Of course, doing these things safely, right? But how do we do this while we're washing dishes, for example? I might, if I'm saying, okay, I'm going to wash dishes as this informal practice today. That's what I'm going to do. My intention is clear. So what do I do? As I wash dishes, I will grab the dish. I will notice how the texture of that is in my hand and the weight. I will notice how it feels to move the sponge. And maybe it's a little slower. Of course, we don't have time to do all our chores this slowly sometimes, but doing these practices in our day-to-day life a little more helps us cultivate the skill of doing it in real time. More likely to really be able to hear our grandchildren laugh or to really see the eyes of a loved one that's looking into ours, even though there's tears in them, to really feel the skin of the hand that is holding ours. So a little bit of practice every day, both formal and informal. It's an attitude and intention. It's not a state or an achievement. It's not aiming at perfection. It's being where you already are. It's not getting rid of emotions, but it's changing our relationship with them. It's not checking out, but being more present. It's it's coming back to life. So practice mindfulness right now. Go do it, right? You can do that. I'm doing it right now as I'm talking. I'm feeling my legs on the chair. I'm noticing the air on my skin. I'm noticing the emotions in my body, this sort of like elevated, activation, this arising of, because of talking and sharing and wanting to say everything and questions. Am I saying anything useful or what are you thinking about this? That's mindfulness practice, being aware, all that stuff. I want to leave with a poem by Mary Oliver. Art, poetry, dance, music, all these things have mindfulness often woven into them, bringing us back to the present in some way. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around her with enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass. I know how to kneel in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? And my hope is that mindfulness can help us answer that question, help us with clarity as to what matters, to hold the difficult things in service of doing that, living that life. Here are some resources that are part of the slides. Practice groups in Honolulu that have some Buddhist affiliation, and some websites and smartphone apps. So please feel free to email me. And the email is, I can put that in the chat as well. And I wanted to open it up now for some questions.